bribery allegation. Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
It's a bunch of malarkey.
All right. Senator Grassley said the recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national case in case he got into a tight spot. Hanna Trudo, senior political correspondent with our partners at The Hill. Okay, is this the smoking gun?
Well, we certainly don't know yet. There's a lot of information, I think, that remains to be revealed in this latest development here. I mean, one thing that kind of struck me in looking through all of this information was just how heavily that document appeared to be redacted. And that's obviously what we've heard yesterday from Senator Grassley in a sort of vague speech, but, you know, going full force with trying to make that case that Republicans in Congress, both in the House and the Senate, have been trying to make against not just Hunter Biden, but against the Biden family. And so I think as more details emerge, we'll be able to see if this is kind of the smoking gun, as you say, that Republicans are hoping for, but they're certainly making that case now.
Right. Look, we all know that Hunter Biden is a very troubled individual, both personally and professionally. He's had a lot of issues. That appears to be sort of baked in, right? But if you think about the timeline, 2014, Hunter serves as Burisma's group member. It's hard to imagine that Hunter Biden, on his own, if his name was Hunter Smith, would get a significant job in overseas business dealings to help companies and navigate difficult situations if his father had not been vice president. April 2019, Hunter Biden's laptop dropped off at the Delaware computer repair shop, and that sort of starts the clock when everything happens. As you've talked to Democrats in the House and not necessarily huge supporters of Joe Biden, but just Democrats in general, how much of a liability do they think these sort of continuing nagging questions are?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to even the 2020 election and certainly the midterms in 2022, it was mostly waved off as kind of a distraction. Democrats hoped that as Republicans sort of piled on with Joe Biden's son, that they would kind of misdirect the attention from other issues. And they sort of said, you know, this is not something we're going to give our attention to. We don't view it as something that moves the voters. And so they're kind of hoping that it goes away. And, you know, it's interesting to see the strategy on the Republican side not necessarily change over the past couple of cycles, because as much as Democrats have kind of said, you know, we don't want to engage with this, we are going to, we saw Joe Biden himself just kind of laugh at a reporter's question and say, where's the money, jokingly. We've seen Republicans kind of double down, and so they are going to be making that case. This is something that they've telegraphed for quite a while, and Democrats, I think, for their side, are just going to kind of keep waving it off.
Right, until something comes out that you can't wave off, right? Then all of a sudden, if you get that link between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, forget that Joe Biden said he'd never talked to his father, you know, he'd never talked to his son about his overseas business dealings and other things that we now seem to now know aren't true. But if you get something beyond the sort of low-level stuff and you get an actual link between the two of them, is there a plan B for Democrats? Are they laying any groundwork for how to deal with it?
Certainly not publicly. I mean, I think for now, you know, like I said, it's kind of the hope is that this is a story that dies down. It's something that they don't want to give more attention to, but they're happy to have Republicans focus on it to the extent that they think that it's a losing political strategy. I do think that if something more concrete were to come out, or if,
they have to change.
Some of these redactions come out, they would have to change course.
When you press Republicans up on the Hill and you go, okay, we get that you've seen a document with redacted things that talks about a guy who heard from a guy in Ukraine that these recordings exist. Like, when you really press Republicans and say, where is the there? When are you going to be able to give us something that is the concrete link? What do they say?
Well, I think it's more about sort of creating an atmosphere and a narrative. Yeah, I mean, at this point, because there is such little concrete evidence, there are so little things that people have actually seen, I think that they want to just kind of go along with a narrative that they think serves their political purposes. And, you know, that's their prerogative to do that.
Yeah, so far it hasn't been successful, is sort of the flip side of it. We'll see what Donald Trump invariably talks about Joe and Hunter Biden. We'll see if he does that tonight. Hanna, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.